Hey guys, welcome back. I hope you're having an amazing day. Let's get right into the stories. First story is titled, I'm Your New Manager, and You'll Listen to Me. No, I really won't. Bit of background before I start. The story happened when I was still working as a machinist back when I was 19. I started that job on second shift, 2 p.m. to 10 p.m., but was transferred to weekend shift, 5 a.m. to 5 p.m., barely 6 months later. And the manager for weekend was an older man we'll call Jay. This is important for later, since weekend was severely understaffed. We were each put in charge of multiple machines. I was in charge of running 4 machines that formed a big block in a corner of the factory hardly anyone ever went to. One Friday morning, as I was setting up my machines, a short, rotund man with a Vernon Dursley mustache walked up behind me and tapped me on the shoulder, surprised that I had a visitor. I pulled my head out of the machine and greeted him. Me. Well, me. EM equals entitled manager. Me. Hi, can I help you with something? Entitled manager. I'm his name. Me. Okay. Nice to meet you. I'm my name. Holds out my hand for him to shake, which he ignores. Entitled manager. Yeah, I'm just looking around trying to get a feel for the place, you know. Me. Understandable, I guess. I trailed off, not really sure what he wanted, and knowing that I had about 20 minutes to get the machines going before I fell behind on my work order. Entitled manager. You've got a pretty nice setup here. I wouldn't have known there was anyone working back here if I hadn't wandered over this way. Me. I guess. Entitled manager. I bet you have fun back here. You can slack off all day and no one comes by to bother you. He laughs in a kind of a condescending way. Me, sorry, but is there a point to this conversation or can I finish setting up? Yeah, I probably could have been a little more tactful here, but I worked my ass off and had the highest job completion rate out of every shift who ran those machines, which was quite a feat considering I was alone and the other shifts had between 2 and 4 people running those same machines. Entitled manager sneers at me. You don't know who I am, do you? Me? Nope. Should I? Titled manager. Yeah, you should. I'm your new boss. Me. I stare at him for a second and then laugh. No crap? Did Jay finally retire? Entitled manager. What Jay? What's he got to do with this? Me. Jay's my manager. It was at that moment I realized he'd gotten ahead of himself and didn't even know who he was in charge of yet. Titled manager. No, he's not. I am, but I was just promoted to first shift manager. That means you work for me. Me? No, that's not what that means. I said slowly. I'm on weekend shift, not first, so you're not my boss. Jay is. Entitled manager. If you're a weekend then, why are you running first shift's equipment? He asked in an aha, gotcha kind of way. Me. This is where I've been assigned. You want specifics? You're going to have to ask the manager. I didn't choose which machines I run. Titled manager. I am your manager. Me. No, you're not. Now, can I please get back to work? Entitled manager. Steps into my personal space and looks up at me with a frown on his face like it was somehow my fault that I was a foot taller than he was. I'm the first shift manager. Me. Good for you, man. And I mean that. But that doesn't mean you're my manager. Entitled manager. Pokes me in the chest. I'm the first shift manager. That means you have to listen to me. Me. Looks down at his finger, then he takes a step back so he isn't touching me anymore. Don't do that. Entitled manager, seemingly amused by my response, steps closer and tries to poke me again. It was at that moment that my actual manager showed up. Jay. What's going on, OP? Machine's ready to get moving. Me. Not yet. I was just being introduced to entitled manager here. Guess I got distracted. Jay. Sees how irritated I look and quickly realized what was going on. Is that right? Hey, entitled manager. Why don't you let me introduce you to the other weekend guys? OP's got to get these machines going so he can make rate. Entitled manager smirks at me. Yeah, sure. Have a good day, OP. I'll see you later. Jay leads him away, and I get back to work without any more interruptions for the rest of my shift. But entitled manager had apparently decided that my defiance was unacceptable and something he needed to personally correct. So I hadn't seen the last of him just yet. Over the next 5 months, every encounter with EM went about the same way. He would try to give me orders, I would refuse, and he would keep pressing until I got irritated. But eventually, Jay just got tired of hearing EM complain about me, not listening to him, and called me into the office for a chat. He basically told me just to suck it up and do what he asked, that it was only because that I wasn't listening to him that he just kept bugging me, and then if I just gave in, he would get bored eventually and leave me alone. So I begrudgingly went along with it and started doing all of the bullcrap tasks he wanted me to do. These tasks included painting tables for first shift, fixing entire baskets full of parts that first shift screwed up, shoveling brass chips from a wheelbarrow to a barrel for absolutely no reason, and setting up machines for the first shift. And I was expected to do those while still doing my own job. If I didn't really need the money, I would have quit the moment Jay told me to go along with this bull crap. But since I didn't, entitled manager only got more brazen as time went on. Things finally came to a head one Saturday morning. Someone on third shift had forgotten to lock up the machine after a sensor malfunction. So I went about setting it up for the next order code, like I always did, completely unaware of the time bomb I had my head inside of. One of the pneumatic doors bugged out due to the faulty sensor and slammed shut on my hand. I should mention I had the machine in setup mode, which should have stopped that from happening, but that's why it's so important to lock out a machine when there's a sensor or an electrical issue in those machines. I was lucky my hand wasn't crushed. As it was, my hand basically turned into a single giant bruise that even made it down to the bones. With the help of another coworker, I got my hand out and went and reported the accident to Jay. Company policy stated that I had to go to the hospital to have it checked out. After having the machine inspected, Jay knew I couldn't have done anything to prevent it, but I still had to go take a drug test after the hospital visit as a formality. Well, entitled manager got wind that I was involved in the accident and decided now would be a great time to press his luck. He comes barging into Jay's office demanding to know why I was stupid enough to put my hand inside a machine that everyone knew was messed up. Me, because I didn't know it was messed up. Entitled manager, that's bullcrap. You just wanted an excuse to go home. I ignored him and kept my eyes focused on Jay while he finished filling out my paperwork. Entitled manager, I always knew you were a pussy, but this is a new level even for you, OP. What, you can't stand working like a real man, so you're just going home? I kept trying to ignore him. Entitled manager, hey OP. OP, I'm talking to you. He steps around in front of me and pokes me in the chest while still ranting at me. Him touching me was the last straw. Me, Jay, get this stupid ducker out of my face. Entitled manager, oh, you've done it now, he said triumphantly. You can't talk to me like that. I'm a manager. I'll have you fired. Me, do it. Please, for the love of God, fire me. Jay, OP, calm down. Just think about what you're saying. Me, Jay, I swear to God, if he's still in this office in 3 seconds, I'm going to pick up this chair and I'm not going to stop until it's broken, or he is. That shut EM up. For a minute anyway, entitled manager, Jay, are you going to let him talk to me like that? He just threatened me, Jay. I'll advise you to shut the hell up and leave. OP's a big guy, and I'm too old to try and stop him if he decides to follow through. Entitled manager darted out of the room a few seconds later. Jay, you know you can't threaten people like that, OP. I'll back you up this time because he was out of line, but I won't be able to protect you next time. Me, yeah, thanks. Jay, I'll call you when I leave the hospital. I said just before leaving the office and driving myself 20 miles to the nearest hospital. Entitled manager never tried to harass me after that day. In fact, he did his best to avoid going anywhere near me after that day. But he didn't exactly learn his lesson either. LOL. I'll tell you that story if anyone is interested in it. The next story is titled, My Neighbor Trespassed on My Land and Called the Police to Evict Me from My Own Property. My family owns a large plot of land, about 80 acres in a rural area. My parents have always been very protective of it, and we had several no trespassing signs around the property. Despite our efforts, we often found evidence of people wandering onto our land. One summer day, I was out exploring the property on my own. I had a camera with me, hoping to capture some wildlife on film. As I wandered deeper into the woods, I noticed there was a strange man following me. He was about my dad's age, but I didn't recognize him at all. I tried to ignore him, hoping that he would eventually turn around and leave me alone. As I walked, I started to feel more and more uneasy. The man was getting closer and closer to me, and I could hear him muttering under his breath. I decided to head back to the house, but when I turned around, the man was right behind me. Hey, what do you want? I asked, trying to sound confident. The man just stared at me for a moment, then lunged forward and grabbed my camera. I tried to fight him off, but he was much stronger than I was. He started ranting about how we had no right to own all this land and how he was going to take it all from us. I was terrified, but I managed to break free and run back to the house. When I got there, I was out of breath and shaking with fear. I told my parents what happened, and my dad immediately called the police. While we waited for them to arrive, my mom locked all the doors and windows, and my dad grabbed his shotgun. When the police showed up, they searched the property and found the man still lurking in the woods. He had a knife and a rope with him, and he was clearly up to no good. They arrested him and charged him with trespassing, theft, and assault. We later found out the man had been arrested several times before for similar crimes. He was a dangerous criminal who had been terrorizing the area for years. I'm grateful that I was able to get away from him unharmed and that my family's land is safe once again. Update. Since that incident, my family has installed security cameras around the property and hired a private security company to patrol the area. We've also become more involved in the local community, attending meetings and speaking out about the importance of protecting private property. It's been a scary experience, but it's also made us more aware of the dangers that can lurk in the woods. Oh, God, this is garbage. The next story is titled, Lawyer Threatened to Sue Me for a 1-Star Review. Now, his 1-star reviews are going viral. Lawyers scam me and my family to the point where we're seeking recourse in court. I left the lawyer a 1-star review, and the lawyer threatened to sue me for defamation. It was all true. If I didn't remove that review, it all backfired as I added that fact to my review. Now, the lawyer is getting tons of upvotes on my review and random 1-star reviews harassing him from everywhere. He even got a 1-star review from the Northwest Territories of Canada. Laugh out loud, they're so secluded from the rest of Canada that I didn't even know in my naivety that they spoke English up there. The lawyer who did me wrong is now a laughingstock. Edit. Wow, I was not expecting this to get this type of traction. Hence the very hasty language on my post. Thank you for your support. In light of having reviewed your comments, I feel the need to address a few things. First of all, yes, I filed a grievance against this lawyer, and yes, the local law society, bar association reprimanded him. But no, this lawyer did not give my family and myself the money that we had been scammed out of back. So that's why we're headed to court as well. Second, we've got a good number of family friends who are lawyers and who had minor input on the case. All have agreed that this lawyer has no leg whatsoever to stand on because everything this rotten apple in the legal community did was in malice, and there is no defamation in the review whatsoever. Lastly, someone from the Northwest Territories left a comment, and I just wanted to clarify what I meant by the NWT being so secluded. By all objective measures, the NWT is described as very remote online. However, you all rock, and I love Northern Canadians. And if you're reading this, JS from the NWT, you're a legend, my friend. I'm sure I'll do an updated post after the final verdict is delivered in court someday. D. As an honorable mention for comments, I'll note that the vast majority of lawyers out there are still great people. I've even got a lawyer representing me, as there is so much at stake. The last story is titled Entitled Karen Makes a Fuss Over My Plane Seat, then insists that I pay for her to move. So this happened back in January 2018, so my memory may be a little bit fuzzy. I'm a 23-year-old man who usually visits my parents and siblings for Christmas and New Year's because that's the only time I can see them. So I'm at the airport waiting to board my flight as I see a woman getting angry because her kids were tired and wanted to get on the plane. I think nothing of it, and I hope she's not sat near me. Note, she was at my gate. As I was approaching my seat, an aisle seat in the business class, because I knew it would be smarter than asking people to stand up so I can get to the bathroom, when I get to my seat, I see one mother and two kids, one in my seat, and I tell the mother that's my seat. She is visibly pissed at that statement and snaps back, "No, it's not, idiot." Me not wanting to have a fight on the plane grabs the attention of a flight attendant, and I show her my boarding pass. So the flight attendant asks for her to move from my seat politely. And as being asked to move her seat, Karen gets in a raised voice, not shouting, says, "This is my seat. I paid for it, so duck off." The flight attendant, still being polite, asked to see the boarding passes to check the seats. The entitled mother pulls two out of the seats next to mine. The flight attendant, slightly less kind, says, "Ma'am, these are only two boarding passes. Where is the third one?" The mother, thinking she's smart, says, "Well, I must have dropped the third one, so I can't give it to you." So this causes me to buy into the conversation and say that I have the boarding pass for that seat because it's my seat. The look on her face, you could have thought I slapped her kid and called her an idiot, because she then shouts, "Give me my boarding pass, you idiot." I'm confused why she's so delusional at this point, because it's obviously my ticket since I bought it. The next part was back and forth arguing, which I can barely remember, but from what I do remember, it was the flight attendant saying that I clearly paid for this seat as it had my name on the boarding pass, and her arguing for a few more minutes before stopping, grinning, and then she said, "Well, if you want me to move so bad, how about you pay to upgrade me and my children to first class?" I responded by saying, "Miss, I only have a business class seat because I do a trip like this once a year. So I tend to be comfortable during my flight, and I don't have the funds for 3 first-class tickets." The flight attendant then says to Karen, "Either you or one of your children will have to move, or else we'll have to remove you from the flight." Then, without holding back, she screeches, "If I leave, he's going to touch my babies." Me and the flight attendant are physically taken aback after hearing this. After that, I stopped trying to be nice and responded, "Get the duck out of my seat and never make those claims again, you self-centered idiot." The flight attendant tries to calm me down and calls for security. In the end, the Karen and her children were escorted off the flight, and I got a row to myself. I forgot about it until the other day, so I decided to post it here after getting into listening to these stories on YouTube anyways. Thanks for reading my story. Thank you for watching. I would really appreciate it if you could like the video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We'll see you again tomorrow.